Welcome to Desiderius Ripple podcast. In this season, we are diving into learnings from the Leadership for Green Transition, a training where we explored sustainability beyond environmental lens and is something deeply connected to how we lead, communicate, make decisions, and sustain youth organizations over time. Today, we are happy to have three amazing guests from Bulgaria, Svetla, Aleksandar, and Yordanka. Svetla and Aleksandar are co-founders of the Bulgarian NGO Beyond Association, which has been our partner on several Erasmus Plus projects. Both Svetla and Aleksandar are studying at Sofia University. Aleksandar is part of the Faculty Student Council of Sofia University. Actually, I think it's Sofia, right? What's the right pronunciation?
Yes,
Okay.
it's Sofia.
Yes, it's Sofia. So I apologize for this. But hey, I was very quick. He's also currently in his final semester on his bachelor's course on Iranian studies. Svetla has a bachelor's degree in culturology, a master's degree in Indian and Iranian cultural and societal studies, and was recently accepted to pursue her doctorate degree in the Faculty of Philosophy at Sofia University. Together, they have extensive experience in youth work across Bulgaria, particularly in rural area of Northwestern Bulgaria. Their work has focused on ecological awareness, social engagement, and community-based initiatives, where they have acted as organizers, moderators, and lecturers in campaigns connecting art, nature, and civic participation. And Yordanka Dani is an active, community-engaged young person with diverse international and cultural experience. She has volunteered at international sports events, supported large-scale physical activity initiatives, and taken part in several Erasmus Plus youth exchanges. She has also been involved in the organization of cultural events at university level. Her work included supporting the planning and delivery of annual festivals dedicated to Asian and Japanese culture, helping create spaces that celebrate cultural diversity, traditions, and artistic expression. He is deeply inspired by the diversity of the world and the way traditions, history, and art shape the identity of peoples. Art also plays an important role in her life, especially performing arts, music, and photography, which she sees as a universal language connecting people across borders and differences.
I mean, with such a diverse podcast participants today, the only thing I can say is shalom. But welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's dive deep. Hannah, what you have for us?
What I have for us? Well, I mean, we're going to be talking about quite a few things. Obviously, we're going to talk about sustainability. We're going to talk about leadership and probably also sustainable leadership during the conversation. I think one of the questions that I would like to ask you probably first and address it to all of you. Before this training, what did sustainability mean to you? And did the training expand that understanding, or was it already part of your vision?
First of all, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure. Honestly, sustainability is oftentimes associated with the topic of ecology or other eco-friendly topics of conversation that you kind of stop thinking about sustainability in the strategic sense. I'm really happy that the project focused on sustainability when it comes to the participants and the work they're engaged with. An organization cannot survive if it doesn't have a sustainable plan for achieving its goals. But outside of being a member of an NGO or another organization, people need to be more sustainable in their daily life, to know how much work they can handle, to know what goals are achievable in the short term and in the long term, of course. That too is sustainability.
I would have to agree with Svetla on this. Sustainability is regularly looked as a thing that is connected to eco-friendly topics. But since our long-term partnership with OAZA, we observed that it is in fact more than that. And now every time I think of a task that we have to do, it doesn't matter if it is as an organization or as an individual, I do think of sustainability as a way of strategic planning and a way of, let's say, planning ahead. And the thing that confused me most in the beginning about sustainability is maybe the language barrier. Because in Bulgarian, sustainability, if it's literally translated, it doesn't necessarily have the same connotation, although sometimes it is used. And for me, it was hard to comprehend the broad sense that this word carries with itself. But once we started to go deep into the topics of sustainability, I think it became very clear what it is. And it doesn't have to be just one thing for every individual and for every organization. It can be a different thing depending on their goals and their mission.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, first of all. And I totally agree with what Svetla and Aleksandar said. But I just want to add a little bit. Sustainability, the word sustainability is used as a means of greenwashing a lot. So that's why mostly people don't really understand the word sustainability in its true meaning. And yeah, it's mostly known as an environmental word. And I want to say that after this training, one of the most important things that I can see as a sustainable thing is the healthy human relations. Yeah.
Right, thank you so much. I think, Danny, it's quite interesting that you mentioned. I don't remember previous guests mentioning this actually human component to sustainability as a definition. So thank you so much for this. And Aleksandar and Svetla, I mean, you also brought a sort of a different aspects of sustainability in your answer, talking about, community action, but also on a personal level, what is sustainability to us as people who engage in that. And obviously, I very much appreciate Aleksandar being also into cultural intricacies, into what kind of differences we might have about this definition just by the fact that we come from different cultures and countries and linguistic backgrounds. So thank you so much also for reminding us this. Another question that I would like to ask all of you, obviously we explore sustainability mainly through the lens of organizations and youth workers carrying this organizational sustainability. And one of the aspects that we really try to focus in this training of this organizational sustainability is leadership. So my question would be to all of you, was there a moment during the week when you realized something about your own leadership style?
Okay, I will start with this one. For me, leadership always has been like straight to the point, a thing that somebody asserts certain things on other people's, but it's far more complex than that. And I understood that through several workshops we did, particularly the one with the 4 leadership styles, 4 of many of them, of course. But what I understood about my leadership style, let's say, is that it doesn't always have to be delegating tasks to certain people. Sometimes you need to start so other people could join you. And then it's like the effect of a snowball rolling down the hill. It becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until it becomes something huge. So if I may close it up with this metaphor, in a sense, it's that leadership is in fact something that begins with one person and it starts involving more and more and more people in the process.
Yes, the thing I realized was that I didn't really ever focus on my own style of leadership. As in, I never took the time to think to myself what my style of leadership compared to other people is. Do I take the initiative? Do I encourage members of my team? Do I delegate tasks? And I never thought about it that much. And even now, after the training course, I cannot say I have one particular style of leadership that I prefer. Maybe it's a mix. For sure, it's a mix of a bunch of styles. I like to think in a more dynamic way. So, but to be honest, before the training, I didn't know about different styles of leadership. So first I was really confused. How can one person be in 4 different styles? So yes.
Before the training, I used to ignore my leadership skills, and during the training, I found out that I was mainly a collaborator, but this is not always the best type of leadership. So I learned how to be more adaptive and to shapeshift between different leadership styles, and I try to use that knowledge now in my life, even everyday life.
Thank you so much for these insights and reflections. I have a specific question for Aleksandar and Svetla. So connected with the leadership thing. So you run your organization together. Actually, there's a team of you. And what I'm interested is, what does sustainable leadership mean for two of you as co-leaders?
So I think for me, sustainable leadership is never forgetting how to communicate, to trust each other, and to always be aware of our goals and our tasks. As co-leaders, as a team, we will have different things we are good at, but I know I can rely on him, I can rely on our small team, and I also know that he can rely on me regardless of the situation.
So I would say for me, the fact that we rely on each other is self-explanatory. I think a team that doesn't rely on each other, it's not a team, basically. Sustainable leadership in the context of us being co-leaders in the organization and being part of the core team of our organization, it means that it don't necessarily want to stand out like individually from each other. We complete each other. So it's not a race of who is gonna lead this thing, who is gonna do that thing, who is gonna be a project coordinator or whatever. It's more of a, you have the time now to do it, so you're doing it. If you don't have the time, then somebody else is gonna cover for you. So sustainable leadership in this sense is that we are always keen to listen to the others, and we are always trying to improve ourselves as a team and our communication in the team itself.
Thank you for these answers. And I remember actually one of the themes of the training in Zadar was actually how to go from personal aspect to team aspect to the project or the outreach, how we actually act or contribute as the organization. So we wanted to bring these three perspectives also in line to touch upon individual and team. And there was also a lot of sessions about communication. And now hearing your reflection about it, just, reminds me of this intensive week in Sadar. And I think it's amazing how you mentioned how you can rely on each other and what team means to support each other. It's not a competition, it's a support. But I have one more question for you. What about the things, that we as a team, or you as a team, is maybe something that it's not so strong, so you can rely, you have a good support. But is there one small practice that you want to introduce or strengthen as an organization now after this training?
In general, I believe we are doing pretty well as a new organization, but a small change that could impact us in a positive way is like establish some future priorities or goals of the organization by discussing what are our current responsibilities and tasks, and what else we wish to undertake. And occasionally to take the time to evaluate or reflect our situation whenever we take new tasks and if we are handling them well. Self-reflection. I think we need self-reflection on organizational level.
I think we learned that reflection is very important and something that it's needed in a work environment and individual environment. I was a bit suspicious of reflection methodology in general, but to be honest, this is indeed a good practice if it's put in the team context. And I would have to agree that more reflection on what we are doing currently, very important thing when it's put in the context of the team itself and on individual level, to see what we are currently doing, to see what we want to do in the future, to see what we have done in the past and how we can improve it. So this is maybe something we should work on more precisely.
I mean, thank you, Aleksandar, for mentioning this, and also Svetla. I think I can say for myself, but maybe also for Hannah, that I'm still suspicious about reflection, because we understand the value of it, But it's always sometimes, questionable what is the purpose, what is the use. You cannot really know it until you subject yourself to it. I realized is how this podcast is amazing tool for reflection, or at least that it supports reflection outside of the training event. So thank you for mentioning that.
Right. Yeah, I just something while you were talking, Branka, something that came to my mind when we were designing the next training that is going to happen soon, which is, about learning environments. And we were talking about reflection sort of as a component. I asked like both of us a question, like when we were like intentionally taught to reflect in our lives, when, like was there parents or educators? And it was very difficult for both of us to come up, with a space where actually both of us would learn how to reflect and what reflection is for us. I mean, it seems like it's something that, we're probably intended to do by default, learn how to do. But, I think particularly in such spaces as non-formal education, you find out that you really have to bring, certain strategy methodology around this to be successful.
I agree totally. I think the reason why we have these interesting talks, at least interesting for me, on the podcast is because we did included reflection during the training. So it kind of set up the foundation for all of the reflection that was going on after now, that we can hear from Yordanka and Svetla and Aleksandar, but also from all the previous members who actually, when we heard their thoughts on the topic, we were very much surprised what we heard pleasantly, but less me.
Yeah, I mean, talking about reflections, I would love to bring Dani to the conversation because when Aleksandar, you mentioned reflection, also like particularly in our work, we look at it as part, like essential part of the learning. And I want to bring Dani to the conversation here because you've participated and you've taken part in many different initiatives in international sports events, in Erasmus exchanges, in university festivals. And I want to ask you, what helps you in those experiences have a lasting impact for your learning? And what enables the rich reflections for you in those spaces?
I think the biggest impact those events have in my life is the whole process of creation, because during that process, we, the team members, the people who make this festival or event or work in a group in an Erasmus project, we work together, communicate, we give a little bit of ourselves in order to achieve what is our goal at that moment. I think that communication is the thing that leave a lasting impact with those projects. And of course, the bittersweet taste after you have achieved the thing that you have worked for.
Yeah, it's thank you so much for mentioning this creation as a very active part of learning. And I think it also sort of feeds to the idea and supports the idea that one of the best ways to learn is by doing things and then being actively engaged with that. And also it's quite interesting about the feeling, the bittersweet feeling that you mentioned, because I remember also with Branka, I don't remember whether we were talking about the events or not, but I said that, sometimes I just feel defeated, in certain things when I achieve them and, they're successful. But at the end, I somehow have this feeling of being defeated, which is obviously also feeds very nicely and can support your reflections in a way. And Dani, another question that I would like to ask you, you have seen both large scale international events and smaller community initiatives. What did this training help you to understand about what keeps projects and teamwork sustainable? Maybe certain, components that we looked at inspired you and just make you think about certain aspects of these events?
I have seen in some cases that the teamwork is almost not existent. Sometimes it happens, like you have someone who just makes a list with tasks and says, you do this, you do that, and everybody just do their own task without communicating with each other, with the other parts of the project, let's say. And in those cases, the work is not that successful. It's not going easy. It's not going in the right way, and we cannot read minds. So it's I think communication is way more important than people think. And sometimes when you're stressed, when you work on a large project, you just forget that. And I think we should think more about that.
Yes, I was just nodding to Hannah because I think we didn't have enough communication sessions on the training for my consideration. When we talk about leadership and sustainability, I think communication is number one. In most of the cases, when we talk about more than one person doing something, communication should be a priority. And thank you for mentioning and highlighting this. Also, when Aleksandar and Svetla, when we talk a little bit about you and your organization and leading organization, you also mentioned communication being the important part. And what I concluded from your feedback is that the communication is going well. But what I'm interested is where does pressure show up most in your work? If it's not communication, or maybe it is, but you're just actively dealing on it, or maybe it's something else. And how do you deal with this pressure?
At this very moment, it is difficult to exactly say where the problem area in our work is, mostly due to the fact that we are an organization with not that much work that needs to be done daily. Our workload is usually spread out across several weeks, which give us plenty of time to do everything we need to do without many issues. Obviously, if we aren't sure about something, we will need time to research or ask someone for advice. But overall, it's not that stressful for now because probably it's just the beginning. So, yes.
If I have to think about something that is stressful or builds up pressure in our team right now, as Svetla mentioned, we do not have that much of a workload. But regardless of that, I think when partnership opportunities comes from different organizations, there is a certain pressure on us. Shall we accept like everything because we do not have anything else, or shall we save our energy for something else? So I would say choosing between saying yes and saying no is something that for now creates a bit of pressure in ourselves, not just a pressure like a workload, but a pressure, a psychological pressure. It's a bit of a, we want to preserve our connection with this organization, but we also don't think we need that project, for example. So it's a way of balancing things and a way of communicating it in a right way with partners.
And I think this also just circles back to what Svetla mentioned about prioritization and where to say yes, where to say no, and how to navigate these things.
Sometimes we need to say yes simply because we feel like we're not doing enough. But after this yes, probably the project or the whole idea does not connect well with our goals. And when you're thinking about should I say yes or should I say no, in the beginning we're very excited that we have opportunity to work with other people to gain something from their experience. But yes, I can agree totally with Aleksandar. We need to preserve our energy and our yes for
What
something
was
bigger.
this song? Should I stay or should I go?
Yes, and I think also for any organization, especially for organization like yours, Beyond Association, who just started, and you're building up projects and experiences. There are always two lines. One is just joining opportunities that come to you, and one is creating opportunities. So, and how to navigate those things, and where do you want to create opportunities, and when you actually create them, to be sustainable and to be in the line of your initial founding idea of the organization and the people behind it. But you mentioned this very clearly, and it's an important point.
Yes, and I think also, like, I'm very grateful to both of you for mentioning this. sort of the line between saying yes to no and sort of what kind of consequences and agency stands behind this. If you remember in one of our sessions, which was visioning sustainable change, when we were doing the simulation, you had to do a organizational sustainability snapshot, and one of the aspects that you had to evaluate mid-game is ability to say no. And I remember a few groups were really struggling to with that particular aspect, because, for example, I mean, their scenario was showing them that they don't really have any funding, so they don't even have a choices to say no, even though, for example, projects don't align with their values, which is a big challenge for a lot of organizations, how we stay true to what we believe in, but at the same time, how we actually support ourselves. I mean, we need bills to pay and we need the work to carry. So it's a very, very important thing that you mentioned, and particularly this capacity to say no, but also quite interesting and important what Svetla, you mentioned, sometimes you need to say yes because you also feel this pressure of not doing enough. And I think especially in civil society, it's a big issue for us as a sort of a people-driven field where we want to do more and we want to do meaningful work. Sometimes we say yes also at the expense of exhausting ourselves and the energy that we have. So thank you to both of you sort of to showcasing what is the price also behind those yeses and nos.
Yeah, and how sustainable are yeses and nos, which is, can we go, how much can we do from burnout, and things like that.
Yeah, and I think before we probably come to the concluding part of our episode, I would still like to linger a little bit more on sustainability. Probably ask Dani the question, because you participated in community initiatives and volunteered for projects like community spaces like gardens and playgrounds. In your opinion, what made that initiatives meaningful or sustainable in your view?
I think that probably the most important thing is that it's community orientated, and everybody can join to make our living spaces more beautiful, more enjoying, more clear and I think in a fast-paced lifestyle that we all have, most people don't have time to take care for the environment. They are just going to work, coming back to work, sleep, and then again. And just sometimes we forget to look around us and just take a breath and enjoy the spaces. A big problem is that in most places in the city, those small gardens and the places between buildings are a little bit abandoned, a little bit not that pleasant. So I really think that this kind of community spaces restoration can inspire other people to just go out and just paint the playground for the kids, or just clean a little bit the small garden that's next to their block of flats or something like that. During those events, I noticed that a lot of people who just pass by are really happy to see us do something for the environment, the city environment. They usually are, even if they were grumpy, they just turn in a good mood. And I think that's like a small grain of happiness that can be good for the people.
With every trash that we remove from the street, there's one person less grumpy in the city.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you also brought like quite an interesting sort of aspect of those community actions, which is visibility and how it can invite agency. Just seeing that other people are caring and doing something probably unintentionally is contagious for you to think, oh, actually, I like when this space is taken care of. And probably this is something that, I mean, I enjoy looking, but also it's probably would also inspire some people to think maybe I can be a part of doing something for the community spaces that exist around me. And also probably saying that, it doesn't take special, I don't know, city services. You can also do it as a citizen, taking care of these spaces. Yeah, so thank you so much for this insights that you shared from your work. And I remember when you shared sort of your background before the podcast, Dani said, don't really do much. And then I see the list of things, absolutely remarkable, the breadth and the depth of many things. And especially, I think community actions are quite undervalued oftentimes, seen as something like, oh, okay, it's a small thing. And both by people who do that and also sometimes by other people. But I think it's such an important part of active citizenship, really. And so thank you so much for sharing this.
Or proactive citizenship.
Proactive. Exactly. Yes. All right. So maybe we can round up our conversation with one final question to all of you. For each of you personally, what was the most confronting or encouraging insight from this training? So it could have been both pleasant or probably uncomfortable.
I think the most encouraging insight from this training were the people in general. So as the training course progressed, I could clearly see that people were actually really interested in the topic of the project, on the topic of leadership, of decision making, on setting goals and sustainable plans to achieve this goal. And it is really encouraging for me to see other people being active and involved. And it really does motivate me to also be involved more in the activities during the project. Like people were really nice, and for the most part, it was easy to get along with the other participants.
I remember we had a particular workshop about communicating problems and writing emails first to the core team, then to an extended team, then to partners and everybody and people that are related to a certain project. And our group was first like 3 people, then we expanded to 6 people, then 12 people. Then it was like a sort of a mess, but a mess with weird order. So for me, that was very encouraging to see that even with differences in our views, we managed to come up with compromises that are not too compromising regarding our missions and visions, but also they're corresponding to the needs of everybody involved in a certain initiative or a project. So for me, seeing the work and the outcome of this work, it was very encouraging, and someday I wish to see it also in real life.
I think probably the most encouraging thing that I saw during that training was that anybody could be a good leader if they work a little bit and learn a little bit more about different techniques and stuff like that. And for example, if I work a little bit more on my confidence and decision making, I think I can be a better leader. Probably not the best, probably not good, but still everybody can improve themselves. And I'm encouraged by that.
I just feel very strong need to add something on what Dani said, because even though I'm maybe surrounded by the reality where I see a lot of people in leadership position who are failing. They're not failing because they don't know what they are doing. They don't know what their job is, but they're failing because they don't apologize when they make mistake, because it's this human factor that is missing, like this they don't know how to communicate. So these are soft skills. Definitely, when we went through the training, we talked also about different types, and we presented a little bit of methodologies and paradigms of leadership. But I think essentially, if we want to use our role, a leadership role, to serve others in a way, to be a support, like you mentioned in this talk, that we can rely on each other, everything that springs out from that is going to be excellent leadership, even if we lack techniques. And I feel very big need to mention this. But thank you, Dani, for going into this direction.
Right. I mean, it was very reassuring, but with, two sides. Good news that, everyone can be a good leader. Bad news that it takes effort, and your effort to be one. Yes. Well, Svetla, Dani, Aleksandar, thank you so much for being part of this conversation and for bringing the Ripple into the work and your country, and the space, the youth work space that you're a part of. I think it was incredibly thoughtful and enriching conversation for us, at least, right? I mentioned to you this quite a few times, but I do believe that both of us really mean it, that we do love you being part of our community, and also seeing you grow as youth workers has been an absolute joy for us. And we are very much excited to see you in coming to our spaces more, and also probably taking on more role of leadership facilitators, who know, and also seeing you facilitating spaces of your own. And to our listeners, thank you for being part of our space. Stay with us as we continue this series of Desiderius Ripple, where we explore how learning spaces turn into lasting change.